Hi, it's Jenny Kohler, Daybreak's Community Master Gardener, here today to discuss lawns. It's going to be the topic of conversation all summer long as we address these water issues. So I'm coming today, hopefully here to answer most of your main and important questions. I'm here at a neighbor's house addressing some of their lawn issues. You can see that their lawn is looking a little stressed, a little dry. So let's start at the top. First thing I recommend is aeration. I recommend you do it on an annual basis. With our clay soil, it's really important that we get oxygen as well as nutrition back into the soil, and aeration is key. If we go in and have those aeration plugs pulled, that's a time and opportunity for us to add nutrition back into this lawn area. It's not easy to add nutrition or add soil back in once we have established lawns. When you aerate, you can then top dress the lawn with good compost material, do a raking into those aeration holes to add good organic material. That will help your lawn, especially if you feel like your lawn didn't have good topsoil when it was being established. Really, really key with clay soils, that oxygen level. 2 is maintenance. I discussed in my pruning video how important proper maintenance is. When we're cutting our lawn, we need to think of that as a pruning cut. So the same rules apply. We don't want to take off more than 1/3 of our lawn at a time. When we keep our lawns long and the blade long on top, that's reflective of the growth of the roots below. And that is super important. We do not want to sacrifice green lawns for root growth. So in the spring and you're thinking your lawn isn't greening up fast enough and you want to throw some nutrition down there and you want to get out there and mowing. When you mow, your lawn is going to have to react to that. It's going to react by trying to heal that cut, which means it's not going to be focused on root development at that time. It's going to be focused on healing that cut. So we always try to wait to get our first cut in until it starts to warm up a little bit. We don't want to get out there too early in the season to cut it. And then when we mow, we want to only take off 1/3 at a time. I always recommend you molt when you mow, that you don't bag it. That top third growth that is you're cutting off is full of nutrition. It's the highest nitrogen piece on the lawn blade. And so if you mulch it back into your lawn, you are right there adding good nutrition back into the soil. So good proper maintenance right there is key. And then nutrition. There's a lot of different formulas out there. There's a lot of different companies out there that want to sell you something. Healthy lawns will outcompete weeds. If you are really struggling with a weed problem, I would talk to you about your irrigation and I would talk to you about your maintenance practice. Are you cutting your lawn too short? And when we have our lawns too short, we're exposing too much of the soil, and that allows weed seeds to take root. If we're keeping our lawns long and those blades come up, then they can outcompete the weeds. If you have a weed problem, it needs to be addressed. It's really important. You don't want them to outcompete the lawn. These are my 2 favorite tools, a horticulture knife, or this is just, I got this at the local big box store. It's a weeder. It's got a pointing edge and you can pop your weeds out. It's really great for dandelions. Dandelion is probably our top weed that we see in our lawn, but you have to remember dandelion is a biennial weed. So it's setting its weeds, it's setting its rosette the season before. So you can put a pre-emergent down, but that's only affecting the new seeds that are being set into the lawn. So if you have a rosette in the lawn, a pre-emergent is not going to kill it. So you are going to either have to hand pull that out or you're going to have to use an herbicide. A broadleaf herbicide would be key in doing to killing dandelions individually throughout the lawn. But again, if you keep a healthy lawn, it will outcompete the weeds. We've all had grass digging up and coming up through our flower beds. We know that grass can be very competitive. So if we keep our lawn healthy and growing, it will totally outcompete those weeds. And the last thing, and it's the thing that I will stress time and time again, is watering. This year, we yet to see what maybe water restrictions will be with us. But watering is so important with our clay soil. And understanding this concept is really key. So we have clay soil, which means it's tight and it takes time for water to get into the soil profile. So when we water our lawns, we need to be watering deeply, which means we water in one watering event, and then we need to let the water take time to work its way down the soil profile. So if you go and check your sprinkler box and you are only watering 5 minutes, but you're trying to do that every single day, that means water is barely staying on the surface of your soil profile. That is where your roots are going to stay. And if you have shallow roots, that means you're going to have very thin lawn. You want to train your roots of your lawn to seek out the water. You want it to train it to go down deep through that soil profile and search out the water. So if we water deeply and we train those roots to go down deeply, then we will have great top growth. So watering deeply and infrequently is key. That is the majority rule. There are some unique watering systems. There are some unique new sprinkler type heads that may be exception to that. So when watering, you want to water and then you want to give it days in between. So the amount of time that you water should never change per watering event. So let's say you have a fixed sprinkler head. That means it comes up, it doesn't rotate at all. When you have a watering event, that should run approximately 25 minutes. That time doesn't change. But right now, I've only ran my sprinklers once so far this year, and that was when I tested them. So far, the water division's asking us only to water once a week. Once a week, 25 minutes that sprinkler head will run. As we get more heat, I may run that 2 times a week. But again, it will not run longer than 25 minutes. And at the most in the summertime, I'll run my lines 3 times a week. If it's a rotating head, that type of sprinkler, that would run for 45 minutes at a watering event. If you have a drip irrigation system, they recommend that runs for 60 minutes at a watering event. So again, those times don't change. It's the amount of days per week that you water. And at the most, you will want to be watering every 3 days in the heat of the summer. Weeds are such a big problem for all of us. To really understand how to take care of any weeds, whether it be in our flower beds, in our lawn, you have to understand what the weed is. And I've got examples right here. You can see I have bindweed here, I have some spurge coming up, and then I have dandelions. All 3 of these have to be treated differently. I'm going to speak specifically to dandelions because that is what we see so much in our lawns. Dandelions are a biennial, which means they set their rosettes, their leaf structure, the year before. So it's super important if we can get to our dandelions before they send up these flowers. Once we send up the flowers, they are much harder to kill even with herbicides. So the most effective way is to hand pull them out, which there's lots of tools out there. This is one of the more effective ones. This is a weeder. It's got a little fork neck, and I'm pulling that weed out completely with its rooting system, and that is super important. You want to make sure that all the root is out of the lawn. You don't want to leave any of the waste. If you've got dandelions that have overtaken your lawn, I would still recommend trying to pull out as many as you can by hand, and then getting a broadleaf herbicide. Getting in there, spraying those leaves, spraying those rosettes as soon as possible, especially here in early spring before they can start to set their flowers. It probably is something you're going to have to read the directions on the label to see how often you can reapply. It's going to be something you're going to have to be focused on to get ahead of the game. Weeds are a necessary evil in our gardens. We have to work at them. But again, if we can create a healthy growing environment, for the most part, we can start to create an environment where we can outcompete. This lawn won't be able to outcompete the weeds, and we won't have this problem next season. So I hope this helps you a little bit to get started and that you can have more success in your garden.